Thanks for joining us on this month's Lunch and Learn. We appreciate it. I'm Doug Nelson, State Fire Marshal. The other presenter that we will have today is Marcy Yost, who's also on video there, and we'll have some sections to present as well. So this Lunch and Learn idea came up from our Public Information Officer, Jacob Just. We were having a meeting discussing some different options on what topics we could be covering in the next few months. And one of them was to talk about the state of the fire service and just an overview of that. Where we kind of ended was we could touch on some of that as far as the state of the fire service, such as statistics and a few of the big things that are going on that involve the fire service. But also then what we thought is it'd be a good idea for us just to give an update from our office on some of the big things that have recently happened, things on our radar, and have that discussion, make sure everybody knows what direction we're heading, and give the opportunity for those that couldn't make fire school, especially where we usually give an update, or NDFA convention where we also give an update. It's just another opportunity to have that discussion and get word out on what we're trying to do and what direction we're heading. So with that, obviously, as always, we're looking for feedback. So if you have questions or comments, probably if you can keep them to the end, we'll have time for that, or put them in the chat and we'll address them as we can. And we have probably about a 20 to 30 minute presentation here at top, so should have plenty of time for questions afterwards. With that, we have the first few slides here, our real basics on our office. So I'm going to kind of push through these a little quicker. So we are under the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. We do currently have 7 deputy fire marshals across the state. The blue dot there up in the northwest corner of the state is unfilled and vacant, but we do have that FTE position assigned. So with any luck, we're hoping to open that again in the next month and make a push to find a deputy up in that area, which has been underserved for us and a difficult area for us to reach on a daily basis up there. Most of you on this call know our role, but our focus is fire prevention. That typically comes in fire origin and cause investigations by request, fire inspections, both legislatively assigned and by request of the local fire department. We do plan review of fire protection systems, above ground storage tanks, LP tanks, and buildings as submitted to us for fire code review. And we also do public education and CRR, which is what the Lunch and Learn series are part of, where we're trying to get more information out to fire departments as much as we can. And the big red one in the middle there is assistance. So some of the specific roles that we have are laid out there. Moving on to the next, go ahead and move on to the next one, Marcy. I think these we'll cover at another time, but fire origin and cause investigations, this just kind of walks us through some of those roles again here, so we can skip through these couple slides. Fire inspections and code enforcement, plan review, public education, and community risk reduction. We do also do special programs out of the main office here. We try to keep these so our deputies don't have to focus on these as much. They're able to focus on those deliverables out in the field more, working directly with fire chiefs, versus these are programs where we're working either with private companies, fire chiefs on certificate of existence, things that we can do easier out of the main office, centralized. And so what we're talking about today, so 2024 in review. We did, last year was the first year where we started putting out preliminary statistics. What we found was it was bothering us that we waited until August or September every year to put out our annual fire report. And we're looking for ways to at least get some sort of information out so we have something to go on. So what we did start doing was issuing a preliminary statistical report. Last year was the first year. This is our second year. And so we're going to keep trying to do that as much as we can, just so that we get those numbers out when they're pertinent to us. It doesn't make as much of a splash when you put out notice that we have stats on the prior year when it's September. It's so much later. So we always had those questions of why does it take so long? Well, the reason it takes so long is the National Fire Incident Reporting System has always been open until the end of June the following year to completely close out those stats. The idea being to give fire departments time to get those incidents in and reported correctly so that we get all of the data that we possibly can before closing. So since they held that open so long, it would always take us a long time to come out with a final report on all of the data that we have at that time. So we're hoping that the preliminary statistics hit a little more topical towards the beginning of the year for the previous versus later. We are still going to do our full fire report later in the year as well. This year should be a little bit earlier because the National Fire Incident Reporting System is stopping accepting reporting at the end of March here. So this is actually the last day to report into NFIRS for 2024. Last year, we did make it up to 89% of fire departments reporting. We had 316 out of 354. Again, this is a continued upward trend, so we are really excited and proud about that. We'll talk about a little more later in CRR. Of all that reporting, we ended up with 2,924 fires, 11 fatalities, 24 injuries. All three of those numbers are really pretty stagnant. They fluctuate a little bit every year, but really very little. We've kind of settled into around 300 fires, 10 fatalities, and 20 plus injuries, it seems like, at least looking at the past few years here. 47,000 incidents, that's down a little bit from the last 2 years, where I think our high 2 or 3 years ago was 54,000 incidents statewide. And $27 million in dollar loss, that number really fluctuates for us. And we think that number is just because of consistency of putting it in or not putting in at the fire department level into the National Fire Incident Reporting System or whatever reporting system you're using. I think there's a lot of cases where we either don't put it in or maybe put it in different ways in different places. So we see that number really fluctuate up and down. So speaking of last year, we can't talk about last year without mentioning October due to those dry conditions, which we are still seeing. And from all the reports I've seen, we don't necessarily have a lot of precip on the forecast. So we're continuing to deal with those. But last October, we saw dry conditions result in over 100 wildfires and 100,000 acres burned. This was mainly due to the combination of factors of the dryness. We had some warm days in October combined with some extreme winds of above 70 miles per hour. So whenever we experience those, we're going to run into issues as a fire service and be challenged with how to deal with those. Obviously, everyone is aware of the losses that came from those. I can't say that's what number or when the last time we had a fatal fire from a wildfire was, but in recent memory, that's definitely the first, and these are the most substantial that we've had in recent memory. The only other one that I think would come close as far as threat to locations was the 2021 fires in Medora. Our partners, the Department of Forestry, were very active in helping local jurisdictions during these firefights. And the state fire marshal, our role was investigation. So we did respond to 5 requests. All of the incidents that we found were due to the high winds affecting ignition sources that were already in the field. So whether that was oil field flaring, power lines, or ignition by hunters, really the key factor was the wind's effect on those. Senate Bill 2340 and 2339 are both a direct result of these wildfires. We had some legislators who were interested in doing making some laws or some response to these wildfires to try to improve conditions for the future, especially with what we're seeing in these wildfires, which I think is a similar situation to what we're seeing across the nation, whether it's in Hawaii, whether it's in Massachusetts, whether it's last week in North Carolina, whether it's a little over a year ago in Texas, whether it's in our state, Colorado. I think every state is seeing some type of challenge with wildfires, and so that is the wildland-urban interface is a growing challenge for the fire service as a whole nationally, and we're no different. So 2340 is specifically intended to study the fire service response and how we can deal with these changing conditions and wildfires and make sure that we're producing the most effective and efficient fire service out there that we can and getting the best help out there that we can to the local jurisdictions and working together. 2339 limits liability to power companies if they meet a plan that's accepted by the Public Service Commission, I believe is what it is. So that one is just kind of tied to it. What they're trying to avoid with that one is any type of scenario where power companies have to, switch to rolling blackouts due to conditions or be worried about a high level of liability just because they have an ignition source that's out there and, as we've seen, is going to fail in certain conditions, like we experienced last October. Nothing too scary in 2339. Our view of that is it's a small step forward in fire prevention and fire safety with the power companies on board. We can make further strides, but hopefully this is a step in the right direction to ensuring that power companies are aware of fire and themselves as a possible cause. I think that covers that one, Marcy, if you want to go to the next. Year and a half ago, we transitioned to the insurance department. So for approximately 40 to 50 years, we had been underneath the Attorney General's office. So during meetings with Commissioner Gottfried, fire chiefs determined that the right fit, along with working to get 100% of the fire insurance tax distribution, was to bring the State Fire Marshal's office back to the insurance department where we initially had been developed and established a long time ago, way before that even. So we did transition 1.5 years ago. We have had a good transition and there have been some good wins along the way. Number one, Commissioner Gottfried, along with fire chiefs in the state, achieved 100% of the fire insurance tax distribution dedicated back to fire departments. This had been not 100% since, from what I understand, the early to mid 80s. And so was a goal 40 years in the making to get back to 100% of that funding. Hopefully that is something that fire departments, fire chiefs have noticed on their distribution checks. Our office had not had any additional positions in the last 25 to 30 years. So when we did come over, that was a request. We were able to add and secure 2 additional staff positions. Those are both deputy fire marshals to our office, and our focus is to serve the local fire departments and fire chiefs as best we can. So we did want to identify those and put those out in the field to expand our reach and service in the field. So we did put one of those into Jamestown and one of those into Devil's Lake. And those are both filled with new deputy fire marshals. The last one that we don't have is, again, in that northwest area, in the Williston, Watford City, Tioga, that area of the state. We do still have an opening. It's not advertised at this time, but we hopefully will do that soon. Another important win for us was we got our own website as we came over to the insurance department. Jacob Just, our public information officer, has done a great job at helping us develop that, and Marcy's given him a lot of content to help build that. We are still building that and trying to make it as much of a resource as we can. So if you have comments, things that you'd like to see on there, information we can post, please let us know. We are still trying to build that into a continuously updated resource for fire departments to go to if they have needs in fire prevention. And the last win was, it had always been a long-term goal for our office to house our deputy fire marshals in fire departments. That was realized pretty quickly as we came over to the insurance department. We were able to secure leases with different local fire departments to get our firefighters in fire departments, which is a good connection for us back to the fire service, especially after having been in law enforcement offices for many years prior to that. So good natural fit for us to come back, and it aligns with health and safety of fire gear and equipment and so forth. Another big push that we made was approximately 2 years ago. We had to kind of step back and look at ourselves as far as if we were doing enough to work together with all the teammates that we have out there for fire investigations. So what we found was there was a lack of communication between Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms, and ourselves. And so what we did was we established the Fire Arson Strike Team. And that is a partnership between our 3 agencies to make sure we communicate, notify each other, and work together as early and on every investigation that we can. So does that mean that all 3 agencies will show up at every fire you call for? Not by any means. What it does mean is that we are communicating on those from the start. So we'll notify them. It is up to each agency's determination if they need to or have the staffing to respond. But at the end of the day, getting that communication going early is what we found was one of the biggest barriers to that. So that has been a great success for our office, for I think those 2 agencies, as far as the improved communication that we have gained from it, and the investigative process to have the team concept and focus from the very beginning. We agree, or between the 3 agencies and ourselves, we think it's the best place that fire investigations have been in history of the state. So we are excited about what we're doing, and hopefully we can keep pushing in the right direction and even expand on it in the future as needed. We are continuing to build on this. Like I said, build it in the future. One of the places that we'll likely start including more in the very near future is the insurance fraud unit, who the director is just 2 offices down from my office. So just kind of a natural resource to come together, especially with arson for insurance fraud being one of the large components to arson. So we're happy about that. The Certificate of Existence program, we are continuing on with enforcing this and holding fire departments accountable to North Dakota Century Code 1804. Again, this is all in Century Code. So essentially it is, we break the Century Code, or we hold departments accountable. We are choosing to hold them accountable. We are doing that as reasonably and as helpfully as we can. So we are giving fire departments up to 4 years to comply, and warnings to comply with the minimum requirements of this program. And we are communicating with them throughout that time. So we are reaching out by phone, by email, by letter to try to engage to make sure we get them the help that they need. We have in 2024, we had 5 fire departments that did not receive their fire insurance tax distribution. Again, looking to the next year, which would be 2025 Certificate of Existence, which opens in August. We may have more that don't receive their distribution. We don't notify them up front about that, and we try to engage and work with them throughout that reporting time for the Certificate of Existence to make sure we get everything documented that we need to on our side. And our office goes as far as working with them on a plan of correction. So if they can get a signed plan of correction with us that tells us they're going to be meeting the codes, we'll work with them to keep them funded. But in the end, we have had a number of fire departments that just haven't been able to either get it done, haven't worked with us to accomplish that. So we have the deadline to get their funding has expired, and that's where we're at. We also continue to work with those departments. So as they determine if they're going to try to comply with that code for reimbursement, if they come back to us at a later date and decide they're interested, we're happy to work with them and get them re-signed up and keep them with their assigned funding. So we are trying to work with them, but at the end of the day, when I first came to this office, we were asked to hold them accountable to that, and so we are doing that as best as we can. Currently, we recognize 354 fire departments in North Dakota. Our delegation of authority program. So we have organized and formalized this program. So what we did to do that was develop a form with a signature spot for our office and for the local fire department that is accepting the delegation of authority. We tried to give it some description of the program and of the agreement, so we kind of get that on paper. And that is, and also that's our notification of when a new code, when the state's under a new code to those fire chiefs. And that's been largely successful. However, we did run into an issue recently with state buildings under this program. And it's been an issue that's been around for a while. We haven't been able to solve it yet. We have been in talks with the different state agencies. And what we're running into is legal questions about state requirements to follow local codes. So where I think we're going to end up on this is it's going to have to be a resolution that's going to be very dependent upon state agencies that own state buildings and local building authorities on what the solution is long term. If anybody has any questions about that, I can definitely follow up, but it gets very into the weeds legally on the requirements of that. Now, that doesn't necessarily affect our office and our delegation of authority with the local jurisdiction, but sometimes if they don't meet it in one area, then they don't necessarily want to sign that agreement in another, is kind of where it affects our delegation of authority. So we're trying to work with those different locations and local jurisdictions where this has become an issue and surface. We're trying to work with them on a case-by-case basis and make sure we are moving forward together when we do have buildings in question, and making sure we get input from all parties possible when we have those. So something that we're working through. We haven't fixed it yet, and hopefully, though, with it becoming a surface issue, gives us the opportunity to address it in the near future. Community risk reduction. All right, so I get a break here. Marcy, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about community risk reduction. For those of you who don't know, please keep tuned into our lunch and learns. Marcy's done a really good job of expanding what we're doing in community risk reduction. And to sum it up, I think our goal in community risk reduction is really to be a communicator. We want to get you resources. We want to get fire departments information, guidance, whatever we can do to help share other programs that are out there that are successful. We look at ourselves as, we are not a large enough staff to run out and be handing out flyers at a school or a safety event. But what we hopefully can do is keep our ear to the ground, connect people, and send out information and help try to keep all these fire departments connected as much as we can and share those programs that are successful out there. So that's really been our focus. Marcy's done a great job at harnessing that. So with that, Marcy, I'll let you describe what you're working on with community risk reduction.
Thanks, Doug. For the record, I really wanted to be that person out there handing out flyers and hosting events, but that was a big dream. And Doug helped me realize that we're probably better focused this way. And it's been really, really, really rewarding for me. So I appreciate all of you that have let me work in this field and help me see the areas that we need to work on. As Doug mentioned earlier, our fire reporting is up to 89%, which we're really excited about. We spend a lot of time on the phone with fire departments, trying to help them find the best way for them to get their reporting done. There's a lot of options and every department is different. So we're happy to sort through those options with them and figure that out. And as a lot of you know, every time the department flips over a chief or something like that, it changes and their options change along with that. So if you or somebody you know is struggling with reporting, please don't hesitate. Don't beat your head against that wall. It's not worth it. Just call and we'll figure it out. Our ISO fire departments. This isn't something that I know a heck of a lot about, but I do know that we have worked diligently with those departments that are ISO 10s, and our goal is to get them to at least a 9. We've had lunch and learns. That was the very first lunch and learn I think we had was a ISO 10 to 9. And we've had people working pretty hard on it. So we're really impressed with the dedication that the departments are showing to get to this. And now that we have the preliminary annual reports, we're getting our data out sooner. And we've got reports that go out every month. And there's reports on the website to keep you updated. But if you ever have any questions about that stuff, don't hesitate. Give me a call, email me, whatever works for you. Things that we're doing in this CR area that we consider wins. The fire safe cannula kits are covered by Medicaid. We are the second state in the union to do that and get that done, and it was really easy. Doug set up a meeting with Medicaid folks, and they said, "I think that's a great idea," and they did it. So it was not nearly as complicated as I expected it to be. Other things that we've done is Minot has gotten a partnership together with the folks up there that are providing oxygen. And so we're working to make that, write letters to oxygen providers and put together one pager for the departments. So we'll talk more about that stuff. But we've established the lunch and learns. So we're hoping that those are going well and that are useful. If you've got an idea, let us know. If we're going in the wrong direction, let us know. We've got kitchen table meetings. So on the third Friday of every month, we have a North Dakota kitchen table meeting with anybody that's interested in CRR. Right now, it's largely the bigger departments, but it's not closed and they're recorded. So if you want to go dig through the website, you can see the other kitchen table meetings that we've had, and maybe there's one that's interesting to you and you can rewatch that one. We also do weekly blogs. Well, they're not weekly anymore. They've been changed to monthly. So at the beginning of every month, you'll get a notification or could sign up for notifications that our blogs are out. I do a blog on CRR. Doug does a blog on whatever strikes his fancy. The deputies do blogs on code things, code, interesting code things. We've recently started talking a little bit about some of the in crazy, awful, tragic fires in history that have affected code. So there's some interesting things going on there. We also try to include some data. So if you're a data person, data or it didn't happen. And so there's usually some information out there. We have lots of fact sheets available on the website, but there's always more. I don't, poor Jacob, I don't know how many we've thrown at him and said, you know what would be a good fact sheet? So he's working through a lot of those and we're working to try and get those updated for you guys. That they're all based on what we think would be useful for fire departments. Fatal fire response, I think that was the first thing that we started talking about when we did CRR was so every time, and I shouldn't say every time, when I know about a fatal fire in the state, I try to reach out to the chief of that area and see if there's anything we can do, if they've gotten the reporting taken care of, if they need to be put in contact with Red Cross, if they've had a debrief, all of those things. And quite often we just wind up talking through what happened and what we can do. And if it's possible, let's not waste a tragedy and maybe do a smoke alarm blitz or something of that sort in your area. So if you haven't heard from me on that, that's not such a bad thing. But if you have any questions about that, again, don't hesitate. Current CRRs, we're working on more fact sheets. Temporary homeless shelters is something that bothers Doug, and when you start digging into it, you can see why. So that's something that we're working on. Lithium ion is, of course, always a big thing. Trailer house fire prevention, it's something that bothers me because I live in a town that's got a few trailer parks and there's always fire. Mobile food trucks is something that Doug has been working on with food and lodging, and we are that close to putting out a one pager on that one. And then the home oxygen therapy, will be putting out some more information on that for you and for the providers. There's also a grassroots effort out there to bring a accessible fire safety trailer to North Dakota. It started out, Stuart Hammer from Minot. It was something that he brought to our attention. And again, it was one of those communication things that Doug was talking about earlier. We just put all the people in the room and they started talking about it and they got really excited about it and have found a vendor. And now they're into the, okay, how do we find funding now that we know what this thing might cost? But if that's something that you're interested in getting involved with, that group is tiny but mighty. So I can put you in touch with those folks. We also are trying really hard to see to do school programs. The folks up in Grand Forks did a really cool program partnering with UND, and we've been talking to NDUS and the school systems and others, trying to figure, and we've got some ideas about how we could make that program work from everything from preschool to college age kids. And we just need to get it going. But I think that especially for our smaller departments, this will be really, really helpful. So that's what our hope is. There is a Tri-State Carbon Monoxide and Safety Summit going to be in Grand Forks in May. NFPA is coming to town and they're bringing their partners with the Carbon Monoxide Coalition and all kinds of things. If you haven't seen anything about it, let me know. We sent it out, but it's on our Facebook page. There is a message, it's on our calendar on our website. But if you want more information, let me know. It's going to be really exciting. It's short. It's like from 9 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So it's just a one-day thing. But there's going to be a lot of interesting people there, survivors of carbon monoxide. So there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of that. And they're going to be providing continuing education, if that is something that helps. Let's see. Oh, Support Needs Fire Safety Week. I really wanted to do a special needs safety week this year, and I just didn't get it going fast enough. But talking to some of the folks in that area, I've learned that support needs is a more appropriate way to put it. So my plan is to start working on this like now, so I don't miss it again the next year. And we will have a Support Needs Fire Safety Week. The plan is to have the governor sign it and all kinds of things. And with any luck, maybe we'll have that trailer in this coming and we can talk about that then. Grain bin safety awareness, that's something that we've collected some information and we're trying to partner with, but there's just not, I don't think there's a ton of states dealing with it. So Doug has been working with the insurance commissioner, and that's something that concerns the insurance commissioner. So we're trying to get some information out there about that. And we've got a youth fire center program coming soon. So I won't be coming out to do your interviews or anything like that. But the logic on our end is to put together a kind of a flow of how you can deal with youth fire centers in your community, especially if you're in a smaller one, but even with the bigger ones. Let us help you find some help. And last but not least, my CRR dreams. My really big dream is to have a mascot. And Doug said it, and I can't let it go. I really want one. So that's something that I'm working on. And poor Jacob, every time I bring it up, he says, yeah, but what are you going to do? So I've got some ideas and I'm putting them together. And if you have any thoughts or if you want to get involved with it, that's another one you can help me with. Smoke alarms, traditional and alternative, and CO detector programs. Again, it's a passion of mine to make sure that folks with support needs have the appropriate smoke alarms for them. There are all kinds of smoke alarms out there, and as a special needs mom, I didn't know that. My kid was living with the scary smoke alarm that we couldn't test because it freaked him out. So there are other ways, and the public needs to know that. And we need to find a way to help them get them. I don't know if we're the ones providing them or how we're going to do it, but Doug has some really cool ideas and we just need to bring them in. Someday I would like to have a CRR conference. And when I say conference, it doesn't have to be days and days. It could be just like what the NFPA is coming up with here, one day. And people that want to talk about CRR across North Dakota can get together and have some people to talk to about that. So I'm hoping that'll come out soon. I'm also hoping that we can put together some PSAs. I think there's a lot of easy ways to do PSAs that we could provide for all of you for at basketball games or on your local access channel or whatever. So that's something that I'm hoping for. Something that Doug and I have also talked about is a residential fire sprinkler partnership. We've talked about it as maybe we should pinpoint a special needs family that needs something like that, or maybe we should work with Habitat for Humanity. So those are things that we're kicking around once in a while around here, and hopefully we'll get there. I think that's the end of mine. You're back, Doug.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Marcy, and thanks for what you're doing with community risk reduction. As we said when we started, we're just trying to do what we can with the time and staffing that we have available, and Marcy's doing a great job running with that. So appreciate it. I can't have any update about our office without mentioning our staff. We have a dedicated, professional, and qualified and fun staff, so we appreciate everything that they do for us. That's everybody we currently have, minus myself. I skipped putting my picture up there. So I won't necessarily go through everybody. I think most of you know who most of our staff is. But they do a great job, and we'll tell you more about it here as we get to the next slide. So all of our staff are continuing to achieve credentials. We now have 4 certified fire investigators through the IAAI, which is an industry standard certification. We also have 2 ICC certified fire marshals. Again, that's an industry level standard as far as a good bar to be at for code. We have 4 IAAI fire investigation technicians. And all of our staff at this point are a minimum of Fire Inspector 1 and working towards their certified fire marshals. Again, the certified fire investigator and certified fire marshal are about a 4 and 5 year minimum goal. Usually takes that long to get through those and achieve those. So they're lengthy goals, and we're working towards them and making progress. So kudos to all of our staff and what they're doing and achieving. We are involved in statewide and national associations. So we're involved with NDIAA, NDFPA, International Code Council, NFPA, NASFM, National Association of State Fire Marshals, Center for Professional Credentialing, CIPSI, and yeah, those are the main ones. But we are involved and volunteering to be parts of those groups and to help run them. All of our staff does attend the National Fire Academy annually, at least that is until it was recently shut down. So that was bad news for the Federal Fire Service, but hopefully that is something that corrects itself in the next few months. And we are working to expand fire investigation and inspection training offerings and partnerships with NDFA. So that's been on the horizon for many years now, is to have a certified fire investigator through NDFA and a certified fire inspector certification through NDFA. And those are things that we're working on. And hopefully in the next 2 years, I would say, we hope we can come up with the programs to support those. Next slide is just a few recent successes. So we do fire investigations, plan reviews, inspections, and public education, CRR. A few of the things that we've done, just wanted to share some of the specific ones. We've had some successes recently and continue to. Every day presents a new opportunity and a new challenge in fire prevention, and that's the exciting part about this job. And so they're doing fantastic, and just wanted to not necessarily talk about each one here, but just highlight that they are having some great progress and doing some big things for fire departments and with fire departments in the state. So again, I want to stress that's with fire departments. Most all of these are us working alongside the local fire department together, hand in hand, and that's where we have our greatest success, is when we're a team going forward. Next slide. In 2024, our deputies did conduct over 100 fire investigations. They closed 130 plan reviews and opened an additional 97 and completed 245 inspections. Those are rough numbers that are pretty consistent. It depends a little bit on our staffing, but usually that's about where our numbers are each year. And then code assistance throughout every day. We don't have a way to track that, but all of our deputies do get phone calls, thankfully, from fire chiefs to discuss what's going on in their towns or what issues they're having and what we can do to help remedy those or help get the right code sections to them so that they can enforce those or work through those in their local jurisdictions. And so looking at the future here. So some of the things that are coming down the road that we are either in the middle of working on or that we foresee pushing towards are hotel motel fire safety inspections. That's in partnership with Food and Lodging. We are looking to do more on the plan review and inspection side of those. We have added a form to our website to assist with this. So if your jurisdiction gets a call from your local health agency and you typically don't inspect these, or from the state Food and Lodging, and they ask you to work with them on fire safety, please know that's a resource out there. Please don't hesitate to contact our office and we can help coordinate or work with yourselves and Food and Lodging on that. But that is a program that we're looking to develop more and make sure that our hotels and motels in the state are safe for those transient populations that are coming through and staying nights. Our food truck program, as mentioned before, we're hoping that by this summer or early summer, we've got a good framework for a program that will be very closely aligned throughout the state, no matter which jurisdiction you're in. We'll be enforcing similar fire codes to food trucks throughout the state. The end goal with that program is to have reciprocity for those food trucks so that if they get licensed in one jurisdiction, hopefully the goal is someday that that license will transfer and be recognized in other jurisdictions throughout. We will be working on our adoption of the 2024 edition of the Fire Code with the goal of having that adopted officially summer of 2026. We are stuck to that timeline because we do have to be 6 months behind the state building code because we reference the state building code in our adoption and we can't reference it until that code is officially in place. So that code takes place or should be officially adopted January 1 of 2026, which would put us on schedule, hopefully, to be adopted July 1st of 2026. And we'll begin reaching out probably in the next month or two to local fire jurisdictions, especially those that adopt their own code. But it's an open process, so anybody that wants to be part of that code adoption can attend meetings and discuss the different amendments, deletions, changes to the addition of the code that we adopt as a state fire code. And NERIS, so the National Fire Incident Reporting System, is still, at least we're still hearing word that it's going away, and the National Emergency Response Information System will be taking its place as the fire reporting tool provided by the United States Fire Administration. This transition is supposed to be in late 2025. We are scheduled to transition all of our fire departments in November, or to start in November. There's been some talk about early transition, but nothing official yet. So we're hoping that they can stick to that timeline and we will begin working as a state in November to get all the fire departments transitioned over. The good things about this are NERIS is supposed to be a much more user-friendly and much simpler reporting platform. It probably will not be as built out as NFIRS is. It won't have as many fields, so it'll be shorter to report. And it's supposed to be much more intuitive as far as using resources to start that report or have the report partially filled in when you sit down or pull it up on your phone. So there's some good technological advances hopefully built into that system. The tough part will be, figuring out how to get from one system to another, getting used to how that looks, getting through the growing pains of learning a new system, and maintaining our reporting, hopefully as close to where we are in the next year, and then continuing that push to 100%, which would be the end goal. We do have a grain elevator fire safety checklist available on our website now that is intended as a self checklist for grain elevators. That was the request of the industry over the past year, as we saw a number of grain elevators catch fire and burn down. Was they needed some guidance on what they could do to make sure they're as safe as they can be from fire. So we did put together that self checklist that's available to grain elevators. However, how that gets to their hands, that's kind of up to you as the local fire department and the grain elevator to reach out for that assistance. And fire prevention and accreditation, we are continually working on continual improvement on our fire investigations, equipment, and processes. And our end goal with that is to achieve accreditation as a fire investigation unit. That is probably between a 2 to 4 year goal, just depending on time, budgets, funding, and how quickly we can get everything organized to attain that. But that is the end goal that we're working towards, is to be accredited, not only as a fire investigation unit, but also on our fire prevention processes of inspection and plan review as well in the future. So it'll be continual improvement to achieve those. And then from there, the accreditation process should keep us focused on continual improvement. Next session, things to look for. 2340 obviously could have some good impacts for the fire service, we hope. What we hope is that is really a good opportunity for the fire service as a whole to step back and look at the types of emergencies that are occurring, and if the fire service is prepared, and how we work together, who we send, when, and how often, and how we support each other, both at the state and at the local level, and communicate, coordinate, and organize to respond to emergencies as effectively as we can. So hopefully that is a good opportunity. One of the big things that I want to make sure we advocate for during that is some sort of reference, adoption of some sort of wildland urban interface code, even if it's just out there for guidance for local jurisdictions or for homeowners. Just have something at the state level that recognizes the wildland urban interface, and making sure that we are protecting building our homes, maintaining our homes, businesses, cities and towns as prepared as we can, so that we hopefully survive the emergencies better. Last October, we had 2 fires threaten towns that luckily, due to firefighting efforts, due to the wind, due to where the fires the directions they ended up moving, narrowly avoided burning into 2 towns. So we do have wildland urban challenges in our state. And I think if we can build upon defensible space, making sure our towns, cities are resilient, is an important place to be investing and researching and making sure we have information out there for. We are also studying the North Dakota building official, or lack thereof right now, is part of a study that the insurance department has undertaken. The big question is, what do other states do? North Dakota does not have a building official or anyone that can enforce the building code at a state level. And so that is a gap that has been identified. So we're researching if that's something that North Dakota can do. How does that come into play? What century codes would have to support it? Where would it come from? And so there's a number of different aspects that'll come into and hopefully out of that study, so we can move forward possibly next session with some answers on how do we shore up that side of the safety arena for the built environment. Our office also wants to work on fireworks updates. Our fireworks legislation hasn't been updated in many years, and we also get a lot of questions on that every July 4th, especially leading up to that, through it, whether it's the retail license, wholesale license, and any kind of fire safety questions that are in there. We always have a lot of questions, and it's a challenging program for us to give those answers. And so we hope that if we can work with industry and other governmental partners that share in the fireworks legislation, that we can build something that works for North Dakota and brings further safety into the state at the same time as still maintaining a business environment that works for industry. Next session, we also do look to partner with the North Dakota Emergency Medical Services Association, North Dakota 911 Operators Association, and any law enforcement partners that are interested to start an emergency services day at the Capitol. We dabbled in this last session about 2 years ago and had a day where we partnered with the ND EMSA, and it was a good day, but I think it could have been bigger, and we could have brought in more partners to really highlight all of the emergency services and make sure we're all on the same page and working together legislatively to push things for emergency services wide, not just any particular section of the emergency services. So we look forward to that partnership. We're going to start meeting this summer to begin the planning for that. And we're working with NDFA, the Fire Chiefs Association, the groups listed on there, to start building that and see what we can do with that to bring awareness and legislative support to the Capitol during session. Another idea that we are kicking around that we are hoping we can build on is informational videos for fire chiefs on our website. That would just be another resource that we would try to make sure is updated for fire chiefs. We often get questions if we have training available on how to do any of these fire inspections. Usually our best answer is to work with our deputies in the field, one that builds our relationship with you in the work environment, but also it gives local fire chiefs training on how to use our forms, how to do inspections. What we'd like to do is take the information that you learn from our deputies when they're working with you one-on-one and be able to put that on video, so at least there's something that's accessible to a local fire chief, a local fire inspector, any time of day. They could be able to pull that up and at least get some general information on what we look for or the important things to be looking for when you're doing any of those different types of inspections or fire prevention. So something that we don't necessarily have funded or planned exactly yet, but an idea that we are working towards to try to continue building resources for fire departments. And again, with the idea of making that available on our website. And so we keep building our website into that resource that can be continuously updated and available at all times for fire departments to use. So if you haven't been to our new website, it's been there for a little over a year. Please jump online, find us, work through some of our windows, see where our information is at. We do keep that updated. We are posting on there regularly with upcoming events. We put the lunch and learns, kitchen table meetings on there. And then also we are on social media too. So please don't forget to find us and follow us on social media as well. We also are trying to focus on national level efforts. So recently the National Association of State Fire Marshals and the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, luckily Commissioner Godfried is the current president of the NAIC. I'm also on the board of the National Association of State Fire Marshals. We brought those two groups together and had a joint meeting back in January to discuss national level goals that both organizations have in common and how we can partner to emphasize the importance of the safe and resilient communities and make sure we're working together from two different aspects or two different viewpoints on the same goals. So trying to amplify our voices and make sure we're identifying those partners that we can. I have met with our national delegation annually each of the past 3 years. At those meetings, we do advocate for the fire service and support the elevation of the fire service. We usually schedule those with local fire chiefs. So if you're ever finding yourself going to particularly the Congressional Fire Services Institute or any event in DC, and you want to schedule with our national delegation, please don't hesitate to reach out to see how those meetings go or with help scheduling them. Usually it's pretty easy online, but we have been working to build that into a normal annual visit for us to make sure we're keeping our federal delegation notified of what's going on for the fire service, especially those things that do affect us back in our home state, like the availability of the National Fire Academy and other federal resources. And involvement on national level committees. We have staff that are involved in NFPA, ICC, and the National Association of State Fire Marshals. So we're just trying to expand our reach from North Dakota, make sure we keep up to date with what's coming across the nation as they do. And then we try to get that information out to you through our blogs, through our lunch and learns, through different CRR initiatives to make sure that we're keeping you updated as well. So I think that covers everything, and we went a little longer than what I had planned. We have 4 minutes left. We will stay on for all 4 minutes. So if there are any questions, feel free to hang out. Otherwise, we really appreciate everybody's hour of time here. Appreciate the partnerships and working together to improve fire departments and fire prevention throughout the state of North Dakota. And please know we're here to help, whether that's an investigation or whether that's any other fire prevention matter we can. Our information and contact numbers are on the screen here. Otherwise, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. I think Marcy can call on you and unmute you. You can put it in the chat. And if not, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we'll see you next month where we plan to have the Red Cross present their smoke alarm program that they run in the state here. Thanks, everybody. I'll just hang on here, Marcy, until everybody's either off or until we hit 1 o'clock.